Overgrow the government. It depends on what you want, what kind of plant you want and why. I recommend the medical grade plants, which are balanced CBD THC. So those strains would be Canatonic, Diesel Tonic, Harlequin, ACDC for starters. So Google them, get them sent to you, and make a room or find a piece of bush, whatever, and then just grow them and just start incorporating them into your diet. Sorry, you're talking about legally or illegally? Because I'm talking about illegally right now. Legally, you get a hemp. Not really. Chris is the man who talked about this. You can get a license to grow a prohibited plant, but they're going to not make it easy for you. Hemp is the way to go. What we actually have to do fundamentally is educate each other as a nation that this is a food, not a drug. It's a food you can use to get high if you want. And hey, we can all buy alcohol every day. I don't see anyone here walking around wasted. We appear to be controlling ourselves. Then you need to have land. It needs to be away from a school, away from the road. Although Chris might have some tricks for getting around stuff like that, because the bureaucrats can be played. But you need a hemp license first and foremost, and then you can grow. And Chris is the man to talk to about that. Yeah. Any other questions?
You were saying with the seeds, so you can legally import seeds because it's only once you plant them, isn't it?
No, you can't legally import the seeds.
Oh, you can't.
So what I was talking about, I wasn't talking about hemp seeds. Hemp is a form of cannabis. It's cannabis sativa, and it's the food fiber medicine plant. Drug cannabis is just the pharmacological part, so you can eat it as a salad, and it will be very therapeutic because it has a richer selection of cannabinoids than hemp. Hemp's primarily just got CBD in it, which is really, really good, and everyone over the age of 40 should be consuming CBD every single day.
But the access to seeds is still very limited.
The access to legal seeds is essentially impossible unless you have land and a hemp license, in which case you can grow hemp. Yeah, but other than that, it's a matter of... So I know lots of people, since I've started doing this, I've met lots of people who are breaking the law. There's a lady with severe neuropathic pain who imports CBD from the UK for her neuropathic pain. It means she doesn't have to take opiates anymore. That's great for her. But it's technically illegal. It gets through. The people who grow their own medicinal strains of cannabis, they get the seeds sent from overseas and they break the law. They just grow their own cannabis. And that's basically what we have to do is educate ourselves and each other until the knowledge is unstoppable, because they can't stop us when we understand, and that's why they continue to mislead us. So Peter Dunn, the reason I started this project a year and a half ago was because Peter Dunn just made me so angry. Just telling lies. The reason Sativex is legal, it's because it's a good medicine. It's a good medicine because it's a cannabis medicine. It's actually a homeopathic cannabis medicine, and it's incredibly expensive. But there's Peter Dunn saying there's no evidence for cannabis as a medicine. Meanwhile, with the Official Information Act, I dug out a report from 2008, 10 years ago, written by a senior pharmacologist from the Ministry of Health, who was on the National Drug Policy. He was a National Drug Policy Analyst, and his report, he went to London. He got paid to fly to London to go to a joint conference of the Royal Pharmaceutical Society and the Academy of Pharmaceutical Sciences, and he wrote a report from that called Cannabis Therapeutics, a novel approach to pain and other chronic disease state management. And in that report, he wrote, quite frankly, safer than alcohol. Oh, okay, that's a good start. A panacea for overall health maintenance and protection. He also wrote of broad therapeutic uses, well tolerated by all ages, and the endocannabinoid system was actually a great definition. Your endogenous cannabinoid system is a unique biological system of health regulation and protection. It's responsive to system demand, i.e. whatever the hell's wrong with you, and environmental conditions. It regulates your immune system, it regulates your sleep, it modulates pain, it modulates memory. It's like the master regulator of our physiological and psychological systems of health and well-being. So it's kind of a crime, really, that's been taken away from us, and it doesn't reflect well on us that we have been chomped for so long. But it's very encouraging to see you all here, and when you go forwards from here, please tell people about it and spread the word. I have an organisation called the Hemp Foundation. We're making progress. We have some doctors, we have some patients. We just made a parliamentary submission on the 21st, and I managed to get it endorsed by the Right Honourable Paul East, ex-Attorney General of New Zealand. So when you're getting people like that on side, you know, you're starting to make a little bit of progress. But the most important people are actually the citizens of New Zealand, you know, each other. Because once politicians know that we know, they can't chump us anymore. But until then, they're going to keep on serving big money and not us. In the United States, in the 30 states in the US where cannabis is legal, doctors are prescribing 4,500 less doses of medicine a year. Yeah, so you average that out by the almost 14,000 doctors in New Zealand, and you end up with 63,700,000 less doses. You times that by a low average price of $15 a script, and that's $0.96 billion that we would save. And of course we'd actually be making as well, because we'd be switching that out for something that we are producing ourselves in New Zealand. And then of course you have the fact you'd also have preventative medicine available to people so that we could maintain our health and not need to go to hospital, not need to take drugs, which I would argue is probably a much bigger slice of economic pie saved. But what this process has taught me is that we are a colony still, and a colony is basically a resource for other people. You know, we're just stock units. We just service the place really. And the resources from this country go overseas, the profits from this country go overseas, and we're kind of being, in my lived experience in this country, and I'm 44 years old, and we're just kind of being bled white. So what are we going to do about it? This is one example where we can actually say science is on our side, ethics is on our side, even the bloody Catholic Church is on our side. In 2011, the Catholic Institute of Bioethics and the Jesuit Community of the United States of America said there's so much evidence that doctors should be able to prescribe cannabis to their patients. And they didn't even know about the endogenous cannabinoid system. And they still thought there was so much evidence. So, you know, I'm not sure what to say except thank you for coming. The hempfoundation.org.nz has some information on it. You know, cannabinoids are in mother's milk. Why? Because cannabinoids are good for you. You know, because we make them, we need them to be healthy and well. So, any more questions? I could rail on a bit more. Sorry, I just came up with more because I'm not really nice. No? Yeah, come see me after. The politicians say there's not much evidence. Here's an example of some evidence. Please don't take them, but you're welcome to read through them or flip through them. There's just a lot of evidence. And when they say they're not, they're just misleading us. The Ministry of Health says, has a whole list of reasons why it says cannabis should be illegal. And when you go through them, none of them make sense, except for one called control. And that one makes sense, because that's what they want to do, and they want to control it because they're not serving our interests. We don't know whose they are, but it's not ours. It's not our economic interests, it's not it's not the public health interest, but it's certainly the interest of control. All right, so let's bust that control and free the weed. Chris, Captain High Energy.
I've got to thank you all for hanging around a little bit. It was disorganised a little bit today with the rain, so we're a little bit behind time. So thanks for understanding. Sometimes these things don't always go as planned, and we were meant to have a projector, and it was there. Okay, so I guess in the event page you would have read my story, and what happened with me was 2011, my daughter's godfather has always had Crohn's disease, and I'd always he'd been going over to Sydney to see a Chinese herbalist over there called Dr. Lu, and I'd always said to him to investigate cannabis. It's been in Chinese history for a long time, and you know, it's something that I think could benefit him. Time went on and things got worse. So that was when I sort of first started investigating this sort of stuff. And then I got a phone call from my mum, 2015. And it was in April, so I thought it was an April Fool's joke. But nobody jokes about when your sister's going to die. And basically my sister was given 3 weeks to live. She had 3 weeks to live if they didn't take her into chemo straight away. And they needed to perform a stem cell transplant on her. So she had acute lymphoblastic leukemia, very aggressive type of leukemia. When I started talking to my parents about cannabis, they all thought I was talking about smoking joints. And the research that I've done has shown me that, you know, because of prohibition, we have used this plant incorrectly. When I started talking about the cannabinoid receptors to the doctors, I just felt helpless. And I guess there's no worse feeling in the world than feeling helpless. So I decided to do something and make a change. And what I did was I set up New Zealand Hemp Brokers. There was nobody bringing product to market in New Zealand, nobody challenging the government hard enough, apart from one old gentleman who's now 69 years old, lives down in Owaka on his own republic. He started all of this in 1990, uprooted his family and moved to Wellington to petition and work with the working groups to allow hemp, industrial hemp. Now, before 1937, you'll find that hemp was one of the most widely used plants in the world. It's in fact one of the first agricultural crops we've actually had. It dates back before written history. The Sumerians used to carry it with them in war times. They believed the plant was magical. So basically, they all knew about this plant. And what they didn't know is this. But you see, I think all of us, every single one of us, doesn't need to look anywhere to find what's right and what's wrong. It's intrinsically in your stomach, you know. You know not to kill Mum. She's the one that's going to keep you alive, you know. So cannabis has the same DNA as human DNA. So the amino acids that you find in the cannabis seed that I gave you before, the hemp seed, there's 19 of them. 9 of them our body doesn't produce. Okay? So where do we get them from? We've got to get them from nature somehow. And that's, again, what I was saying before, you know, plants, things like that. So my investigation started basically into leukemia and into Crohn's disease. From there, I made balms out of the roots. And I've got some here for you guys to take home as well. This is quite a magnesium-rich one. But yeah, these are the roots of the plant. So if you want to get to the root of the problem, start with the root of the plant. These contain lipids, all sorts of good stuff for you. You can get them straight out of the ground, give them a good wash, blend them up and put them into a tea. And they just help with gout, help with arthritic pain, and that's from a root. When I first got into this industry, the government told me this was prohibited. I was dumbfounded. I'm like, well, how the hell is somebody going to grow a plant out of that? You know, it's not as if we could go and plant that back in the ground and grow a plant. So every step of the way, I had resistance from the government. Every step of the way. And so I said to them, well, I've just invested in a grinder, so I'm going to grind the roots up and I'm going to sell root powder. Now it becomes a processed product of industrial hemp and now it's legal. We'll get back to you. And because they take 28 days to reply, I've been doing this for 3.5 years. But yeah, so anyway, they got back to me and they said, right, yes, you've got a product of industrial hemp. It's legal. So that was the first battle, and I won it. These are balms that I make out of the roots. So I blend up the roots. I take the roots and I blend them up and mix them with coconut oil. I add clove oil, some magnesium, eucalyptus for a bit of smell. That one's quite, I used a different magnesium, so it's quite strong in the magnesium, that one. So yeah, I started making balms. My sister was going through chemo and her body ached, like it literally ached. So I said to her, look, Charles, you've got to use this. And she's like, oh no, because she's a nurse, right? So she's a nurse in the prison, of all things. And she's like, what do I get drug tested? I'm like, well, shit, I don't actually know enough to tell you. It's not going to test positive. So what highlighted to me was that I knew nothing. I knew nothing about this plant, really. And so began my search. I travelled to China. I've seen herbal medicine men in China. Been to all over the world listening to neuroscientists, doctors, vets, patients, and it's all the same thing. Our government says that there's no proven documented studies. That's bullshit. I'm telling you now. Go onto PubMed, type cannabis, and you'll find over 2,000 published studies about cannabis. The thing is about our government is that they were led by a national-led government, and they did anything from 2009 to stop this industry. They didn't want this industry to take off, and they've done a bloody good job. Because look at this. In Canada in 2007, they grew 6,000 hectares. In 2017, folks, they grew 150,000 hectares of hemp worth $436 million. Go figure. Where's our industry? I grow 20, and this is my second year with farmers. But there is no industry, so I got a hold of the New Zealand Hemp Industry Association, started working with them, and so we're making some very good progress. I've actually employed legal counsel to challenge the government now because I'm over it. I believe that hemp is the way that cannabis was designed for humans to ingest. This little fella here has seizures. So what I was doing was I created, with my own intellectual property, a plant flower. Now that's flour as in the baking flour. And I infused it into the hemp seed oil and would give him 2 to 3 drops a day. And it comes with seizures though, almost nil. When he does have a seizure, I'll go to my fridge, I'll grab a capsule, I'll crack that capsule and I'll stick it in his mouth. His eyes are extremely dilated like saucepans. Seriously, they're massive. As soon as that goes into his mouth, those dilated pupils start to drop and he starts to calm right down. And that's within 15 or 20 seconds, literally. So it is quite crazy. So hemp is the ancient plant. I don't know if you know about history. Everybody thinks that a guy by the name of the Anslinger was the guy that actually screwed it up for everyone. But a guy by the name of Andrew Mellon was one of the richest men in America in the 1900s. And there was a massive thing going on between industrial and agriculture. So it was industry and agriculture. It was all about industry and agriculture, right? Well, Mellon was the treasury for the government. So he already had a position of power. At the same time, Henry Ford was actually building cars out of the ground. He'd use cellulose, which is where the term cellophane comes from. Plastic, cellulose, cellophane, same thing. So he'd use cellulose and the fibers to build his cars. He'd also use the diesel engine that Rudolf Diesel created in, I think it was 1896, I think. So he used that diesel that was made from hemp, and it ran far superior to petroleum. But what happened was, Mellon, he owned Gulf Oil, and he owned Union Steel. Now, if Henry Ford had got off the ground, how the hell are they going to compete against shit they can grow? You can create cars 10 times stronger than steel out of a plant that grows in the ground. It's lighter, it uses less fuel because it's lighter, and it runs on vegetable oils. Henry Ford was quoted to say that from a 1 acre of potatoes, you can produce enough fuel to fuel the machinery on a farm for 100 years. Why the fuck we still doing petrol? I don't understand it. I do, because it's a money thing. But this is the thing. So I'm sick of talking to politicians, and I'm starting to talk to people. And people are starting to listen, because some of the stuff I've found out is seriously scary. So Yeah, so we were 1913. So Mellon, gay man, he was the banker, and then the Model T was built in 1930. Harry Anslinger was appointed the Commissioner of the Treasury's Federal Bureau of Investigation. So what happened in 1920, you see, because Ford was producing fuel from cellulose and from plants, this guy Mellon decided to invoke what they call, I think it's the Volstead Act, which was the prohibition of alcohol. Ladies and gentlemen, he prohibited alcohol to give his fuel and his company a head start on the game. How long that lasted was until 1933, December the 5th. So that was 13 years of alcohol prohibition to get a head start, and by that time petrol was going. Okay, and so he had companions with him. So DuPont was another industrialist. He created paints and resins and stuff for cars and fuel additives that made the fuel burn better. So he was very aligned with Mellon. So with DuPont, Mellon, and then in walked a guy by the name of Rudolf Hearst. Now Rudolf Hearst he owned a lumber company, so he used to cut down trees, and he tried to figure out what to do with the leftover trees, so he started producing paper. Okay, so before 1937, everything was made from hemp. The paper that the news came out on, the money, American money was hemp. The Declaration of Independence was signed on hemp paper, so everything was hemp before that time. So Hearst, Mellon, and DuPont convinced Anslinger at the time of the end of alcohol prohibition, 1933, well, we need something to go after, and what had happened before that was Punko Villa's men had actually reclaimed 800 hectares from the Americans. So if you look at what outskirts America and Mexico, right? Anything in America that starts with a San was once Mexican. San Jose, San Diego, they were all once Mexican land. Okay, they were all owned by Mexico until the Americans took it off them. So Rudolf Hearst, he hated Spics, Spaniards, Mexicans, Chinese, the poor, and they went about creating the best, and I mean the best, media campaign of all time. For 80 years, it is still believed today that cannabis is bad for you. Okay, I'm going to blow some myths out of the water. Cannabis does not cause schizophrenia. Okay, I was with Tadhg at doctors' conferences, and every time doctors are, it causes schizophrenia. I've seen it. Well, okay. You're telling me that 400,000 Kiwis smoke cannabis, that we've got 400,000 schizophrenics in the country? Seriously? You're telling me that in the 60s and 70s when my mum and dad smoked a bit of herb, yeah, there's no spike in schizophrenia, mate. So I'll agree with one comment. Cannabis can cause schizophrenia when abused in the minds of those that are predisposed to any disease. Just like alcohol. Just like sniffing glue. Just like taking meth. Just like any other drug that is around you right now. Coffee, sugar. Okay, these are all things that have a biochemical active on our brain and our synapses that gives us a somewhat of a high. Okay, we are primal beings. We used to run around the bush, root lots, and eat lots of plants, and some of those plants would get us messed up. Some would kill us. Well, we don't eat those anymore. But this is what happens, you know. We're primal beings. It's in our nature to want to explore. So, in 1937, Henry Anslinger, he introduced the Marijuana Tax Act, and that basically banned cannabis from agriculture altogether. That was opposed by the American Medical Association, 29 votes to 1, thinking there was an absolutely ridiculous idea to remove cannabis from their satchels. Every doctor had cannabis in their satchels that treated over 100 different ailments before 1937. And they banned it literally from medical and from agriculture altogether. So it was called Reefer Madness. You had, Anslinger, who was quoted, by the way, in 1930 to say that there is no more absurd fallacy than to portray that cannabis makes people violent. And then he's quoted in 1937 saying, "Reefer makes the darkies think they're as good as a white man." Can you see how this is racial? This is a very racial campaign, and it's gone on, and unfortunately, it's still racial. Because I've been busted with weed when I was a young fella and let go. My mate's been busted and put in jail. And I'm white, and he's a Māori. So tell me it's not fucking racial, and it is. Okay, so anyway, sorry, excuse my swearing. Some of it gets me a little bit. So basically what we're dealing with industrial hemp, cannabis, sativa, we don't need THC, folks. We produce it right now. Right now, if you go for a run, go for a ride, have a bit of a nookie in the back room, whatever, you're going to produce a chemical in your body called anandamide. Okay, that is your human THC molecule, right? In China, they call it the hormone coupler. Okay, so what it does is it promotes a sense of well-being in the body, and it's called the bliss molecule. So you're producing it. We don't need it if we're living healthy, fit, active lifestyles like we were back in the day. Because now we're also dependent on smartphones, taxis, cars, all those sorts of things. We don't get the exercise that we need. And we're eating so much omega-6 rich food. So our diets are very omega-6 rich. So oils from vegetable oils and stuff like that, very rich in omega-6. And that actually promotes the likes of ADHD, Alzheimer's, arthritis. So to get your body back in balance, you need to start to use cannabis. Okay, so we've got different products. The hemp hearts, which is the ones that you saw there before. This is hemp fibre. Now the fibre comes off the field like that once it goes through. I'll get you to pass those around. So that's the fibre in the first stage. And then it goes through a carding machine, which makes it finer. And then it goes through a bleaching machine. So have a look at some of those stuff on our hand now. And then you end up with this, guys. Cottonized hemp. And it's soft. It's antifungarial, it's antimicrobial. It keeps you warmer in winter and cooler in summer. And it doesn't smell as much when you've got sweaty old pits like I have right now. So that's the fibre side of it. Fibre is really important. That's what Henry Ford was making the cars out of. He had the fibre with his resins that he'd made from the ground, and that fibre was some of the strongest fibre, apart from this thing here. This is apparently when Captain Cook came, they couldn't catch the snapper in the bay. They were too big, and they were snapping their hemp lines. But they said that they saw the Māori bringing them in on their canoe. They're like, what? And that's what happened. They stole our flax and took it offshore. They did. They stole the flax and they took it offshore, and they made flax industries all around the world and let New Zealand suffer. We could have had massive fibre and flax industries. Like, seriously. They took the seed offshore and utilised it for their own personal gain. So these are hemp plates. These are biodegradable. They won't biodegrade on you like after 3 washes or anything like that. This is hemp plastic, and this is made through injection moulding. The injection moulding uses a rice, which is a plastic rice, which looks like this, and this is a hemp rice. So basically you put all your beads into a thing, melt it up, produce plastic chairs, produce plastic plates, cups, knives, forks, the whole lot, and way more environmentally friendly than our petroleum-based plastics. This stuff here is lost circulation material made from hemp. So when the Rena sunk out here on the coast of Tauranga, we could have soaked all of that oil up using this. This is one of the most absorbent plants, and anyone that smokes a little bit of huna knows that on a wet day the plant soaks up the moisture. So you got to close that tin. So the lost circulation material, when put into big bags, we could have had beams and stuff floating across that harbour, stopping all of that oil getting to our beaches and shores by putting a couple of these around that boat when it sunk. Okay? I've got some information on this as well. There's some information online where it shows you soaking oil up from water. This is the hemp plant. Cannabis, hemp. The way I put it, guys, is hemp is cannabis. Not all cannabis is hemp. Okay? So hemp is one of the oldest plants known to man. Because of prohibition, because they said you can't have it, what did we do? We went and went, oh yeah? Okay, I'm going to smoke a bit of this. It doesn't get me that wasted. What's wrong? Oh, maybe I'll increase the THC. Because when you smoke a joint, you get 30% of the THC available. When you bake it, cook it, put it into a balm or an oil, you're getting about 95 to 98%. So you're getting far more efficacy from ingesting cannabis and cannabinoids than smoking cannabis and cannabinoids. This is fuel pellets for fuel fires, just another sort of product. This one here, currently with Scion Research at the moment. This is my little baby. This is called Burley Buddy. Any fishermen? Any fishermen in here? Hey! So this is what you add to your burley. If you make your own burley, you add this hemp seed in here, and what it does is all the natural oils from the plant come out, and the fish love it.
It's illegal in the UK.
And it's illegal in the UK. They're not allowed to use it anymore. They felt that it had an unfair advantage. So this is called Burley Buddy. This is something I'm getting tested at Scion at the moment to hopefully release onto the market, much to the disgust of the Ministry of Health. This one here, guys, is a fibre mat. So these are planting mats. So basically you lay them down, put your seeds in them, and the plants, because it's antifungal, antibacterial as well, they don't get attacked by the microbes. So what's attacking us all at the moment with all of these diseases, with all of these inflammation diseases that we believe that that we're having at the moment? So Crohn's, colitis, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome. They're all to do with the microbe. So these here, we've got meat pads coming that go underneath your meat. So if you've had you take a couple of steaks out, you don't use it all. Stick one of our pads under the meat, stick your meat on top. It'll last 48 to 72 hours longer because it's antifungal, antibacterial. So you're getting less food wastage and more food usage. So that's the fibre pads there. This is a planter basket, and you basically chuck that whole thing into the ground. It biodegrades. There's some fibres there as well. So my journey began, as I say, with my sister and my sister getting sick. So I wanted to know why and how this plant works so well. Basically, what it does is, I don't know, I grew up, my parents told me, you can do anything you put your mind to. The mind's the most powerful thing we have. The brain is the ultimate tool. How do we use it? Too often we nourish our body and what our body wants, and not often we nourish our minds. So